Hello, Forensic Science. Today we're going to move on to a new topic, and that new topic is going to be hairs and fibers. Hairs and fibers are unique in that, just like the cards exchange principle, we often leave hairs behind everywhere we go, and we pick up hairs as well as fibers also everywhere we go. Drop some off, we pick some up. As already we watched that one video where the man was caught in Florida due to hairs from his dog or his girlfriend's dog and the fibers on the carpet in their house. Both were nice pieces of trace evidence that linked him to the two women that were found, or there's more than two, it's about like 3 or 4 women that were found around Florida. So hairs and fibers, let's get started. So first of all, biology of hair. Hair is made up of a protein that we call keratin, and keratin is both the same material whether we're talking about hair or fingernails. It's the same stuff, it's how it's formed. Our hair is produced from a structure that's called the follicle, and the follicle is it's basically a group of skin cells that produce that protein. And humans are going to develop those hair follicles first during the fetal development. While you're still a fetus, you're already starting to make those cells that are going to make your hair, even if you're born without hair. New follicles will be produced, or no new follicles will be produced after you are born, which means any damage to those hair follicles later on, such as scarring, for instance, will result in no new follicles. Hair will not grow from that area again. So hair is mostly the result of what we refer to as pigments. And these pigments are a chemical that reflects light, and the visible light that is bounces off, typically, is the color that we see. The shape of our hair can be, all hairs can be either round or oval, and they have texture, such as curly or straight. This is influenced mostly by your genes. Again, we get half of our genes from our mom and half of our genes from our dad. And here is another case where those genes are passed on. And depending on dominance versus recessives, and in some case we have blending of the traits, particularly with texture of hair. This ends up resulting in the shape of our hair, the color of our hair, the texture of our hair. Hair can also be influenced by our diet, our nutrition, and obviously a good diet or a poor diet can make glossy hair or bland hair, make it more straight or more curly depending on our nutrition at times. As well as hair can be changed. You can have a perm, you can get it curled, you can get it straightened. Hair from different parts of the body also are from human body and even from other animals is not the same. In people, when we talk about head hair or leg hair, facial hair, hair of the armpits, hair of the groin area, each of these hairs are different. So where the hair comes from can also be an indicator as to what parts of the body may have been exposed. And those hairs can be left behind, they can be exchanged, picked up, dropped off. These are all parts of those trace characteristics, or trace evidence, trace evidence. And yes, sometimes we can pick up DNA from hair. Most importantly, though, you need to be able to have the root of that hair in order to have DNA. The hair itself, again, is made from a chemical. That chemical is keratin, and keratin is not made up of cells, it's a chemical. So let's talk about the structure of hair. So most hairs are made up of 3 parts, and again, it doesn't matter what animal this hair is coming from. And the outermost portion of the hairs are known as cuticles, very much like our edge of our fingernail, the part that actually kind of like grows, the fingernail seems to grow from it, that is referred to as the cuticle. Generally, girls seem to know this. Guys, we seem to be lacking in that area of understanding what cuticles are. But now you know, it's that little, kind of like that little flap of skin right on the edge of your fingernail, between your fingernail and your skin. But here it's just simply the outside of the hair. They can have scaling, as it says here, as overlapping scaling, and some of those scalings can help us determine what type of animal species that hair is coming from. Typically, we're not going to find a lot of variations in humans to be able to determine specifically who that hair came from. In this case, we're really looking at species of animal for the most part. As we move our way into the hair, the next layer is called the cortex. This is a lot of proteins here. This is where the hair color exists, whether you have red hair, blonde hair, black hair. This is the area where the pigment of our hair is. And then the innermost portion of our hair is called the medulla. This is the core of the hair. In some cases, that may be absent or just may be broken, and we'll talk about those as we move forward in talking about hairs. So our structure of our hair is compared with that of a pencil. It's kind of analogous to the pencil, where the medulla, which would be the lead, which lead is actually not lead but graphite. So that's the innermost portion, the medulla. And then there's the cortex. That would be essentially the wood portion, except difference here is that the cortex is really kind of thin. It's not as wide as that of the wood of the pencil. And then the outermost portion, which would be like the paint around the outside of that pencil, that is the cuticle. All right, so what about hairs? So first of all, let's start with the outside, that cuticle. So the cuticle is generally made up of scales, and how these scales overlap, we can actually measure them and look at them as in, say, per centimeter, be more like micrometers, really micrometers. How much they overlap, the shaping of those overlapping scales, do they stick out, or are they flat, is it thick, is it thin, is it pigmented, is it not pigmented? These are all parts of the cuticle that we can help us determine, again, mostly the species and possibly color. It's not going to give us the individual characteristic that we may be looking for, but with practice with microscope, or we'll be looking at some online for the time being, be looking at that cuticle, be able to tell whether it's something in the deer family, deer, moose, elk. They all have very similar scaling, dogs. Again, very similar scaling among dogs, the dog species. So we'll be using scaling for a number of species. So it's going to be, again, it's about species. It's not often going to be very helpful in distinguishing between different people. Our next one is the cortex. For the cortex, you're going to be looking at the thickness of that cortex. You're going to be looking at the texture of that cortex, and so what we're looking at here is, see kind of more of the orangish or tan area here. That's the cortex. The dark lines in here is going to be that innermost portion of the medulla, but it's the edge there that we're talking about here. This is, again, where most of our color of our hair comes from, and the distribution of that cortex, how thick or thin it is. That's going to be our most important part of determining which individual person that may have come from. Again, it's really tough to do this. So looking at it under the microscope, you can tell the shape, whereabouts we are in the hair. That also, as we look along the shaft of that hair, you also can tell. It helps us determine some other factors along the way. For the innermost, the medulla, this is, again, going to vary in thickness. If it's continuous, I talk about continuity. That continuous, is it complete? Is it broken? Or do we not see it at all? Is it opaque? That's that term, opacity. And sometimes it may just be absent altogether. Again, like the cuticle, the medulla can be an important factor in determining between hairs of different species, but it's often not going to be very helpful for determining between different people. Again, and in this case here, sometimes this one can really be helpful looking at cats, dogs, rabbits, rats, and we'll be looking at those later. Fibers. Oh, goodness, fibers. So fibers, are by definition, are the smallest unit of textile material that has a length many times greater than its diameter. So we're looking at like a bunch of individual fibers that are going to be woven together to create a string, a piece of yarn, and then they can weave those pieces of string and fibers together to make fabric. So that type and length of fiber, the type of spinning method that's used to make that fabric, all of these are like really important. Some of them, as far as identification goes, some of them transfer very easily, particularly in a really loose fiber, such as a wool, or that would be a natural fiber, or something in the synthetic would be like those of a fleece, like a synthetic fleece. They have pretty loose fibers as well, and they transfer very easily. They'll move from one individual to another, from one thing to another. So being able to match those unique characteristics on that of a clothing of an individual, fibers of that suspect or the victim, and being able to match those common fibers where like you have and sometimes these common fibers are too common, like I don't know, they talk about like white cotton, but I don't know how common white cotton is today. But denim, blue jean material, definitely, like practically everybody seems to wear jeans today. Although we're now starting to see a little blend in our jeans, so that also can be helpful as well, determining if you have a blend of fibers with a natural, like a cotton, that goes along with the synthetic. Being able to discover that cross transfers, again, Lecard's exchange principle, can't say that one enough, throughout the semester. Being able to transfer that, and how loose that fiber is will determine how the likelihood that is transferred between the two individuals. For natural fibers, these are going to come from plants and animals. Cotton is probably our most common plant fiber, and then wool could be referenced to a variety of animals. It doesn't necessarily only talk about sheep. It could be talking about alpaca, llamas. Also, these are animal fibers. In identifying these, sometimes the easiest test to be able to tell between a natural fiber and that of a synthetic fiber is a simple burn test. You take a small amount of that fiber, burn it, and it gives off an odor. The natural fibers of animals, whether it's wool or some sort of hair, has a very distinctive smell. Versus a cotton has a very different smell, versus a synthetic is a very strong odor that is also very distinct. But that's really, in as far as the burn test goes, that really is about the best you're going to get. Is just is it a synthetic or a natural, and with the naturals, is it an animal versus a plant fiber? So with synthetics, these are fibers that are coming from man-made materials. We're talking things like nylon, rayon, polyester. These are all synthetic fibers. Okay, so I'm trying to rush along here because I don't want to make this too long, because it's getting longer than I wanted it to be already. So what you're going to end up doing is I'm going to provide you with some links to go to check out these fibers. Sadly, at this moment in time, we can't be in the classroom and look at them under the microscopes ourselves. So I'm going to give you ultimately some websites to go to, and then later on I will give you a little quiz like these sets of hairs here, and I'll be asking you to be able to identify them. Okay, so I wish you well and good luck. Hope you enjoyed this video.